What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Chat HVAC. How's it going, everybody? My name is Scott Jackson. I am the senior technician at Comfort Solutions Heating and Cooling in Lebanon, Ohio. And today we are answering one of your biggest questions. Should you keep repairing that old unit that you have in your house, or should you invest in a new one? This is the biggest question that anybody wrestles with as far as homeowners are concerned. This is by far the biggest question that I get as a technician. And this is no doubt one of the toughest decisions to make. Should you invest that $2,000 into a major repair into your system that's 15 years old, or should you bite the bullet and negate yourself on potential future repairs and just invest in a new system? We're going to be talking about all of that and more today, but just from the top, I want to go ahead and remind you to subscribe to the channel, like the video. Those things help us out tremendously. If you want to support the show in any way, those are two of the best ways to do it. That puts our show in front of more people who probably need this information so they can be armed to make better decisions with their HVAC system in their own home. So, all of that being said, the first thing that we're going to start with today is, when do repairs make sense? There's a few different things that can contribute to a repair just making perfect sense. Obviously, if your system is still under warranty, typically that is anything under the age of 10. Most manufacturers, I say most, not all, most major HVAC manufacturers have an out-of-box 10-year parts warranty. What I mean by out-of-box is just as soon as it's installed, there doesn't really need to be a whole lot of filing included. It's an out-of-box 10-year parts warranty, typically a 1-year labor warranty from the company that's installing it. So, I mean, obviously, if your system's 1 year old, you're not even watching this episode. But, if your system is less than 10 years old, it's most likely still covered under warranty. And what you would be looking at is a no-brainer, let's repair it option, even if the labor is still $1,000 to do whatever you need to do. That by far is still a better investment for you as the homeowner. Like I said, this show is all about the homeowner. The show is all about you. This is not directed towards HVAC professionals. This is not directed at technicians. This is not directed at HVAC business people. This is directed at people who own homes, who don't work in the HVAC industry, and they just want to know a little bit more about that extremely confusing system that's in their house that they don't really know a whole lot about. So that's what we're here to do, is to try to help teach you and provide some valuable information to you to be able to make proper decisions for your own home and do it in the way that you want to do it. You shouldn't be forced to make any sort of decisions, especially one as big as the debate of repair versus replacement. So, like I said before, if your furnace or air conditioner is 10 years old or less, it's been maintained. That's another thing to consider is, how often have you been doing routine maintenance on it? This is something that people often skip out on. This is something that people, especially with newer pieces of equipment, I can't tell you how many times I've heard from homeowners like, well, it's only 5 years old. I shouldn't really need to be doing maintenance on it. To which my response is, you wouldn't drive a car for 5 years and not change the oil. Similar concept. Now, the consequences are not nearly as dire if you go 5 years without maintenance on your HVAC system as you do if you don't replace the oil in your car. However, not getting maintenance on your HVAC system can cause some premature failures. And also, say you own your system for 9 years, you got 1 year left on your warranty, and you haven't had it maintenance the entire 9 years. Manufacturers do have the liberty, they reserve the right to pull service records on warranty claims. So say we got a compressor in your air conditioner that goes bad. It's 9 years old. You want a new compressor, and the manufacturer should cover it because it's under warranty, right? Well, if you haven't maintained it at all for the last 9 years, the manufacturer is most likely going to respond with, well, according to your lack of service records, you haven't had it maintained, you haven't had it serviced on a regular basis, and we can't prove that it's the fault of the equipment, that it's a manufacturing issue. So what we're going to do is deny your warranty claim. Now, that doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And that, if anything, get regular maintenance on your system while it's under warranty. Just if for no other reason other than if you ever needed to file a warranty claim, a manufacturer couldn't look at your service records if they asked for them. Now, they don't often, but if they do, they can't have any leg to stand on as far as denying your warranty claim because you've had it serviced regularly. Another thing to consider is like when repairs might make sense is repair frequency. So a one-off repair like a capacitor, an igniter on your furnace, a flame sensor on your furnace, maybe sometimes even a contactor on your air conditioner. Some of these smaller, more maintenance items, these parts aren't terribly expensive compared to the whole system and really even compared to other parts in the system. So these parts are really just minor things that need to be repaired. I would not be freaking out. I would not be even considering replacement if a technician came up to me and said, hey, you've got a bad capacitor. We can put this in for you. We'll evaluate the system at that time and make sure there's no other issues. I'm like, great, go ahead and do it. Like, just from a homeowner's perspective, that's exactly where I would be on that. Replacement would not even enter my mind, even if the system was 20 years old. So something else to consider, another point to consider, when repairs might make sense. And again, all this is just to provide information for you. This is not me telling you, hey, this is what you should do in this situation. This is just me saying, hey, there are some things to consider. There are situations where repair makes more sense, and there are situations where replacement makes more sense, and that's just what we're here to talk about. So one of the last couple things that I wanted to talk about as far as when repair makes sense is the cost of repair versus replacement. So you might even have a small repair, and I say small, relatively small, anywhere between $400 to $700. Now, I know that is not a small amount of money to some people, and that is perfectly fine and understandable. $700 is still a good chunk of money. But when you're looking at starting out your system replacement venture about $12,000, $13,000, the $700 doesn't sound so bad. The cost of repair versus replacement is probably the first place that people go to when they're making this decision, when they're even having this consideration. How much is the proposed repair and how much is the proposed replacement? And at that point, they'll be able to weigh by whatever metrics are important to you if they want to just go ahead and bite the bullet and replace it, or if they want to continue to ride this one out, maybe make one last ditch effort to salvage this system, get as much life out of it as you possibly can, and do one more big repair on the unit and see how much distance we can go, how much distance we can get out of it. The last thing that I'll mention on this is performance. Obviously, if the home still feels comfortable, your energy bills aren't skyrocketing, it may not be time to replace. You can replace that capacitor. You can even replace that blower motor. If everything is working perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden you have just a major repair that needs to be done. I say major, it could be anything from a blower motor to a condenser fan motor to a compressor, those kinds of things. That's obviously up to you. The compressor's the big one. The motors are a little bit more affordable. However, just those are all things to consider. Is your home comfortable when it's working? If it is, maybe you think, okay, I'll do this one last major repair, and then that's the last that I'll entertain as far as getting more longevity out of the existing system that I have. So something that I want to reassure you with, just as a homeowner, is not every breakdown means that you need a new system. Just because something is broken doesn't mean the whole system needs to be trashed. That's often a thought process of people who just don't understand every aspect of their system. And that's not your fault. You're not an HVAC technician, but I am, and I'm here to help you. So, that just a little bit of reassurance from a technician to you is just because you have to call us out to take a look at your air conditioner or to take a look at your furnace does not mean that you're going to need a new system. It just doesn't mean that. So when we walk in the door, my job as a technician is to help you in the best way that makes sense for you. I know not every single company thinks that way. There are some bad apples out there, and I do not represent them. A vast majority of HVAC companies are full of wonderful people, full of very credible technicians, very honest technicians. There's just a few out there who give us a bad rap, so I don't appreciate that. So yes, sometimes even simple repairs can just give you peace of mind, and that is my job, to communicate how HVAC systems work to you, but also that's your technician's job when they're out there servicing your equipment. They should be able to explain it to you in a way that you understand. And if you don't understand something that the technician is telling you, ask for clarification. One of the last questions I ask before I leave any home is there anything that I didn't explain clearly, or anything that you would like more clarity on? And then I'll tell them this: I don't like people to have questions when I leave. So if they have questions, they'll ask me questions. And then once that question is answered, I will follow up with the same question. Anything else that you need clarity on, anything else that you need help with, anything else that you don't understand that you want to understand more, I'm here to help you. I'm here to offer information for you. I'm here as a resource for you. So that's partially what this podcast is for. And that's also what your HVAC technician should be doing. If you're not in the local Cincinnati area, if you are, you should be calling us. We'll come out and help you. All right. So next point of conversation here. You probably guessed it. We just talked about when repairs make sense. When does replacement make sense? When is replacement a smarter choice over repair? I can hear some of you thinking through the camera, you can always fix it. And I am notorious for telling people anybody would be lying to you if they said that they couldn't fix something. We can always fix something. That's not the issue. That's not even the point of discussion. The point of discussion is, when does replacement make sense? Not when is repair impossible. When does replacement make sense? There's a few different factors that I'd like to go through on this. The first of which is being the system lifespan. Furnaces and air conditioners, your average life, and this is just an average, so don't murder me in the comment section for this. So that's ridiculous. They should be built better than that. This is just an average, so don't stress about it. I've seen them last 30 years. I've seen them last 10 years, just due to different situations. Your average life expectancy is anywhere between 12 to 15 years. Just on average, what I've seen as a technician with 10 years in the field, about 12 to 15 years. That's at least in my area. That's typically when we start seeing major breakdowns and people start to consider replacement. So once you're past that range, you can kind of, I even tell people whose systems are older than 15 years, like, listen, your system's running great. I would just mentally prepare for the idea that you're closer to the end of its life than the beginning of its life. And I would just mentally prepare for the idea of replacement, because most of the time that's the biggest struggle, is just getting over that mental hurdle of, okay, I have to replace it. Because most of the time how these conversations go is the homeowner did not expect it at all. We come in, they've got a bad compressor. It's a 20-year-old unit. It doesn't make any sense to do it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was coming. And if you know that your system's over 15 years old, you can start kind of preparing, start kind of thinking about, okay, well, this is something that's going to be happening within the next 5 to 10 years. I just want to be as ready for it as I possibly can. Another factor that can influence you to go towards replacement as opposed to repair is the repair costs continually adding up. So there's what's called the 50% rule. If a repair cost is 50% or more of the value of a new unit, replacement probably makes more sense. The reason why, I mean, yes, of course, your upfront investment is 40% less, right? You have the upfront savings, of course, but if your repair, say you can get a new system for $13,000 and your repair is $8,000, it's going to be hard to justify doing the repair and sticking with a 20-year-old unit that's struggling versus biting the bullet, paying an extra $4,000 to $5,000 and getting a new system put in with all new warranties and all new assurances and things like that. So that's, real quick point there. If your repair costs are starting to add up, keep the 50% rule in your mind if you have a repair, or if you've had successive repairs, just continuous repairs back to back to back to back to back, and they're adding up to be over 50% of the cost of a new system. You've put that much in it already. You might as well just cut your losses. Go ahead and let's just go with a new one. Another one can be energy efficiency. New systems are anywhere from 20 to 40% more efficient than the older ones, just of equivalent status, right? So that means lower bills, better comfort, of course. So now, I'm not naive to the fact that what I have seen a major shift in at least the homeowners here in the Cincinnati area, shifting away from the energy efficiency conversation and more so in the comfort of the home, credits and rebates, that kind of thing. Because really anymore, the energy efficiency conversation, unless your air conditioner is like 30 years old, it's from 1995. It's just it's a 10 SEER when it was brand new, and it's running at probably a 5 now, but it's barely keeping up. That, yeah, you can have the energy savings conversation at that point. But unless you're upgrading to the highest of what anybody has to offer, like we're a Lennox dealer here in Cincinnati, and their signature series, they have a 25 SEER air conditioner, one of the highest efficiency air conditioners available in the market. Unless you're going up there, that energy efficiency point probably doesn't make much sense for you unless you're hitting like a really, really high end inverter compressor, modulating gas furnace, which all that means inverter, modulating, it can accelerate and decelerate in capacity. So it can, if it doesn't need to output 100% of its full capacity, it won't. It'll just output whatever it needs to. Maybe 37% is all it needs to work. And that's where you see a lot of your energy savings come from. But there is the energy efficiency conversation. If your unit is 30 years old, anything is more efficient. You're definitely going to save on your utilities. The last point that I'll bring up on when replacement is a smarter choice is comfort issues. If you have certain rooms that are always too hot or too cold, or the system tends to run constantly, or replacement is just getting closer and closer. If you have parts of your house that are uncomfortable, replacement probably makes sense. Typically, that means that your system, now, unless, if it's always been this way, that's different. But if your house has typically been comfortable and then all of a sudden your extremities start to suffer, the rooms on the end of the house start to suffer, and then say your second floor starts to suffer in the summertime, those can all be indicators of a decreased and possibly dying performance in your air conditioner or furnace. So those are all things that I bring up as, hey, these are some potential things to consider when replacement might make more sense. The biggest thing that replacement can offer is complete peace of mind. Especially with the higher efficiency options, there are some incredible warranties out there that can just give you total peace of mind for the next 12 years. Like Lennox with their Signature Series system offers a 12-year parts, 12-year labor, 12-year refrigerant coverage. So they will cover pretty much any and all repair that needs to be made over the course of the next 12 years. So if you invest in this system, you will not need to pay for another repair anytime in the next 12 years. You'll be totally covered. Huge peace of mind. Not only do you get the peace of mind of having a new system and knowing that it's not going to fail as often as your old one, but you have the peace of mind over the next 12 years that you won't ever have to pay for a repair. Just in recap, what I'd like to just discuss is, okay, so when does repair make sense? If your furnace is younger than 10 years old or still under warranty, if you have some sort of extended warranty. Repair frequency. If you're not repairing it often and you have just kind of some one-off repairs that need to be made, go ahead and do it. Repair makes more sense. Cost of repair versus replacement. Again, let's look at that 50% rule that kind of applies for the replacement structure as well. If it's below the 50% of the cost of a new system, repair might make sense, especially paired with the fact that, hey, I haven't really had any repairs on my system. So, and this is less than 50% of the cost of a new system, repair probably makes more sense. And then performance. If your home still feels comfortable, your energy bills are manageable and they haven't skyrocketed, repair makes more sense. When does replacement make more sense? If it's over that 12 to 15 year average life expectancy. If it's out of warranty, that would be over the 12 to 15 years. Repair costs are adding up. Again, that 50% rule. Let's look at that again. If we're north of 50% on a repair, even if it's a one-time repair, if say we're at $8,000 for one repair and it's out of warranty, replacement probably makes more sense. And repair frequency as well. If we're looking at multiple repairs back to back over the course of the last couple years, several years, and we have a repair that's over 50% of the replacement cost, replacement obviously makes more sense at that point. And then another one could be energy efficiency. If your new systems can be anywhere from 20 to 40% more efficient, which again, Unless you're going to the highest efficiency air conditioner and furnace that's available, that probably won't make much of a difference to you unless your system is from like 1990. Comfort issues. This is the last point that I'll mention on this is if certain rooms are always too hot or too cold, or the system runs constantly, we're probably looking at some decreased performance. You might want to have it looked at. It might be time to look at replacement. So some assurance that repairs can offer. Not every breakdown means you need a new system, but what can a new system offer you? Peace of mind and stability compared to your old system. All right, pressing on. How to make the decision. This is kind of a hard part. I want to go through a little bit of a checklist for you, just for you as a homeowner. I can even link this, or I can include this checklist in the description below. Checklist for homeowners. How old is your system? How many repairs have you done in the last 2 to 3 years? Your current comfort level. You can rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 if you want. How hot or cold are you in parts of the house? Energy bills compared to a few years ago. Now, if you're going to look at the energy bill route, I would encourage you to pull up your bill from last month and then pull up your bill from last month last year. So from this month last year, and then the year before, and then the year before. Look at your usage, not your dollar amount, because the energy costs have fluctuated a lot over the last several years. This is one thing that I've helped out homeowners here in this area with, is our utilities have gone through the roof lately. And they invested in a high efficiency system, and their utility bill was this exact same amount as it was the year before when they didn't have this high efficiency system. But when I looked at the usage was 50% less than it was the year before. The utilities have just doubled in cost. So look at your usage, not your dollar amount. So that's your checklist. I'm going to go ahead and I'll put that in the description down below. You can look at that. And that might help just mentally help you evaluate, where's my system at currently? Where am I at in this process of considering replacement? That kind of thing. Another benefit that replacement can offer is it kind of future-proofs your home. So if you're thinking about resale, or if you want to sell the house, you may not invest in super high efficiency, but walking into a house as a potential home buyer that has a HVAC system that's under 5 years, that's really attractive to me. So, and I think to other people as well. Buyers like new systems. They just do. It's that reassurance. It's that peace of mind. HVAC is not something that your average homeowner is super savvy in. And because they don't understand it, they just want it to be brand new, and they just don't want to have to think about it for the next 10 years. And that's where everybody's at. But that's the point of Chat HVAC. We want to help you understand every part of your HVAC system. So really, something that I want to stress, that I always try to stress to my customers here, is this is about making the best decision for you. This is not about us as the HVAC company. We work for you. That's what I tell my customers all the time. We work for you. It's not the other way around. It is not my job to come in there and convince you to buy a new system that you can't afford, maybe, that you don't need, maybe, that you don't want, maybe, and not consider any of those things, and just blow over you and just convince you to sign a proposal for a new system based on some vague and arbitrary information that I just kind of made up on the spot to make your system sound worse than what it actually is. We're not in the business of doing that. Comfort Solutions has been in business for over 40 years. We've not been in business that long by being dishonest to people when they need to have their system replaced. Now, there is a time and a place for replacement, and you should always be willing to have that conversation. Don't just blow somebody off because they want to talk about replacement. However, go through those 4 things, the checklist that I just mentioned. How old is your system? How many repairs have you had over the last 2 to 3 years? And what have those repairs amounted to in cost? Your current comfort level in different parts of the house, energy bills today compared to a few years ago. So, this is all about the best decision for you as the homeowner. That's all this is ever about. So some bonus tips here. If you're here in the Cincinnati area, we can do this for you as well. But if you're not in Ohio and you're listening to this podcast, I'm glad you are. Glad you're here. Glad to have you. But every HVAC company really any HVAC company today should be offering financing options. Many homeowners hesitate to replace their systems because of the upfront cost. They see the big dollar amount, like, hey, this is going to be $14,000. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have $14,000. No, but you might have $150 a month, right? Makes it a little bit easier to swallow. Financing options, financing programs, spreading out your payment. Lots of companies are offering at least some semblance of 0% interest for a certain period of time, or a deferred interest for a certain period of time. Financing options are a great way to kind of balance I know I need to have it replaced, but I just don't have the upfront cash, or I don't want to give up all of the cash all at once and completely drain my savings account. The financing options make that a really appealing option. It kind of lowers that barrier of getting to that replacement conversation, because there's lots of homeowners that say, I know replacement makes more sense. I know it would be a better choice to replace the system versus make this $8,000 repair, but I just can't do it. Financing tends to help that out just a little bit, and most of the time people are able to get it paid off sooner than what the term length is for. Some other things to consider when purchasing a new system: rebates and incentives. In Ohio, utility companies, and there are some federal programs through the end of this year that will offer some tax credits, rebates, that kind of thing. The federal 25C tax credit will expire December 31st. So if you're wanting to buy a new heat pump, you can get up to $2,000 in federal 25C tax credits. If you're wanting to buy a new air conditioner and furnace, you can get up to $1,200, which is $600 per piece. There is minimum efficiency requirements, so don't just think you can go buy the cheapest one and then get this massive tax credit. But those expire December 31st of 2025. So if that is an active conversation that you're having, and if you're watching this video for this long, it is probably something that you're thinking about, and I'm happy to help you out with that. But yeah, there are some rebates and incentives. Most manufacturers for higher efficiency equipment will also offer some rebates as well. And then right sizing matters. Bigger isn't always better. You know, I can't tell you the amount of homes I've gone in, and they're like, well, I mean, I've got a 3-ton, but can you just put a 5-ton in? Because I just feel like it would really blow out some cold air. And I'm like, yeah, it would. It would cool your house off in probably 3 minutes flat, and it would be extremely humid. We also don't have the duct sizing for that velocity of air. So bigger isn't always better. There is a proper size for each home. Just make sure your contractor's doing what's called a load calculation. So quick recap, some takeaways here, right here at the end. Repairs make sense, obviously, for newer systems, for minor repairs, and for a system that's still under warranty. Those are probably the biggest indicators of when a repair makes sense. You're obviously not thinking about replacement if your system is still under warranty. Replacement makes sense for older, and what older is classified as is anything over 15 years. Makes sense for older, less efficient systems with mounting repair costs. So you've had multiple repairs over the last several years. You're spending more and more and more and more and more on those repairs. That's typically when replacement makes sense. Use that 50% rule. Is repair 50% of the new replacement, or is it less than 50% of the new replacement? That is a big indicator, paired with some of the other factors of, does this repair make sense, or does it make more sense to replace it? And then consider comfort, reliability, peace of mind, assurance moving forward, energy savings, all of those things in the decision. So there's lots of stuff, more so than just price. And probably the biggest thing that I'll stress to you is the company that you're working with is probably the biggest decision that you can make. Oftentimes, the better contractors are not the cheapest ones. Okay, I'm not saying the cheapest contractor in the slate of 17 quotes that you've gotten isn't a nice guy. What I'm saying is, most of the time, the cheapest contractor is the cheapest for a reason. You typically get what you pay for. And if I give you a quote for $15,000 to replace your system, and somebody comes in and says, I can do that same thing for $7,000, I'm asking some questions. What am I missing? This obviously isn't the same thing, okay? If I put two cars under a tarp that looked similar and said, this one is $100,000 and this one is $38,000, but they're both a car, right? Your question isn't going to be, oh, I'm going to buy the $38,000 car because it's a car just like this car. But if this car is a Ford Fusion or something, or over here for $38,000, and then you've got a Ferrari or a McLaren or an Aston Martin or something over here for over $100,000, they're obviously not the same thing. They're not the same thing. And that's what I would encourage you with massive price differences in quotes as well. So that's a little bonus tip for you. That's right off the dome. All right. You guys have heard me talk enough. Thank you for listening to Chat HVAC, where we give you quick answers to your comfort questions. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to hit subscribe. Don't miss future tips. Hit the notification bell so you get notified anytime we post a new episode. They go up every Friday. And if you're facing the repair versus replacement decision right now, our team here at Comfort Solutions, me, you can call and talk to me. I'm our senior technician here. We'd be happy to walk through this process with you. If you're here in the Cincinnati area, just reach out. Our phone number and website is included in the description of this video. Next week, we will cover back to school comfort tips. Everybody's going back to school, whether you're starting college, whether your kids are going to school, somebody's going to school at the house that you live at. So we're talking about back to school comfort tips, how to keep your family healthy and comfortable during the school year. So in the meantime, stay comfortable. I'll see you next week.